Okay, in this video, I'm going to discuss how a person with a IQ of 120 and above, and a person with an IQ in the range of 80 to, how it compares to a person with an IQ in the range of 80 to 120 as far as meeting a significant other. Okay, so the first thing I do is I break down the population, the percentage of the population that's related to both IQ levels. I've neglected IQs below 80 because I do not believe that they're relevant to this study. So the population I'm dealing with is simply from 80 to 120 and above, and I have recalculated the population percentages based upon those breakdowns. Okay, so I've said in order for a person to find somebody compatible, they have to have a personality alignment. I say 1 out of 5 people, about 20%, and we'll have a personality alignment. Same for both groups, and the amount of people in the general population are available from each group is 10%. I'm using these numbers as just something to establish a value so this study doesn't become too abstract with a bunch of variables and hard to understand. But a person could tweak those levels, or tweak those numbers, and it would change the values somewhat. But I feel roughly those are probably not unreasonable estimates. Of course, it's going to matter to age range too. So available for very young people, people that are like early 20s and stuff, the numbers could be a lot higher. In fact, that's something to keep in mind. So from that, what I have is that for eligible people for 120 and above, there would be 110 people within that population. From 1,000, there's 1,000 people, 110 would have this IQ level, and 890 would have the 80 to 120 range. So that would just be the general population of 1,000 people. And I'm using 1,000 just as a figurative number, represented from pool. Okay, so from that, personality alignment would be 22 from the 110 with the 120 IQ range, and 178 for the mid-range IQs. And then the amount of people that would be available from there would be about 2.2 for eligible for 120 to 120s, and for the mid-range 180 to 120 would be about 17.8. So numbers. So the next question is, and the other thing is the question is why break these down. There is a strong case to be made that people with IQs of 140 would have not just a lot inherently in common with a person that would have, let's say, an IQ of 100. They're really are fairly unique group. So that's the interest. And they're saying, I've heard some people say, there could be some 20-point fluctuation where there would still be some commonality. So 120 could perhaps have some commonality with somebody with 140. But 140 and 150 probably would not be a suitable match for somebody with 100 or even probably 110. And certainly not below that. So they break this down, and we say, just in a general population, if you were just to run into somebody on the street or the health club or something like this, some just general environment, what are the chances of meeting somebody in there as far as compatibility or as a significant other? So a random street meeting, for 120 and above, I come up with about 454 people you'd have to meet to find one suitable person for 120 and above IQs. For 80 to 120, about 56 people. So the next question is what if a person targeted their activity to something, let's say an interest of, that may target their IQ range. So people, when the IQ range of 120 and above, would find activities that would specifically, it would be an activity filtering effectively. I mean, one thing comes, there are a few things come to mind, but this is even maybe theoretical, but let's say a person could. So what that would mean is if you, for IQ 120 and above, you'd have to have about 50 encounters for one individual, and for 80, 120, still the same thing, 50, because as I said, these are filtering, activity filtering events, and that'd be probably theoretical. I'm not sure this could be pure filtering anyway. So the next one, I said, what if a person chose a singles group and said, I'm going to be very specific as far as finding somebody that's available, because given that maybe not all people that are there are actually truly available, but let's say they are. So IQ 120 and above, you have 45 encounters you have to have, and 80 to 120 you have to have 5.6. So practically, for a person that is at 80 to 120, you have a very good chance of meeting somebody in a singles type of situation. Now, the other point I bring up, that isn't necessarily good, the 5.6 either per se, because there's a strong case that if a person says, I only have to meet 5 or 6 people, I can actually change. I can find somebody better because I only have to meet 5 or 6 people. So this is a very strong case that a person with an 80 to 120 IQ range would simply find themselves in a significant other auction pool, where you're simply outbid, or somebody comes along better because it's simply very easy to do so. So, you know, the idea comes to, let's say you're in a club or nightclub setting, and somebody, hits it up with you and is, it's going very good, and somebody else rolls along and pretty compatible too, and it only takes 5 or 6 people, and they say, well, you know what, they're a better deal, so I'm moving on. With a person, let's say with a higher IQ, somebody comes along, they're probably still not going to be compatible, and so once you have a match, it's probably solidified. And so the shortcomings of having the higher IQ as far as meeting somebody can also probably be a benefit as far as not finding yourself in the significant other auction site, so auction situation. So in this case, it's 45. You have to meet targeted specifically singles when IQ is 120 and above. So the basic breakdowns are, it looks, I would say, if you're an IQ 120 and above, and you try to just encounter people in the club or in the gym environment, the health club, out on the street, and just the grocery store, whatever. I would say you have to meet 454 people, and this is given these numbers I've applied, of course. You're probably going to, there's a probably greater likelihood you're going to run into problems than you're going to actually find somebody. So, you may find yourself in who knows what kind of situation. So, probably not a good idea. And as I said, for a person with 80 to 120 IQ, in many of these single environments, you're probably going to find yourself in some sort of an auction situation, being outbidded by somebody else, or somebody comes along better, somebody flashier, or whatever. Not necessarily true. The person may be, deceiving the person. So, and you just simply, a lot of disappointment too, and that could potentially, simply because it is so easy within those environments. So, and realistically, for this 120 and above, to have a targeted activity or targeted with singles activity, and that's the one's probably theoretical anyways, still very difficult, fairly difficult to find somebody that you're going to be compatible with, most likely. But in the range, you may have to meet 50 people, 45 or 50 people,
before you would find somebody you would be compatible with if you were in this IQ range. So, probably realistically for a person that is, to avoid the auction sites for 80 to 120 IQ range is probably not good. The auction situation is probably not good to even participate in something like that too. And I guess that would align with a lot of people's experiences online dating and things of that nature too. They just simply find themselves in an auction. So, okay, so that concludes my assessment of the situation.